y'all doing? When I stepped in the game. Yep, it's the Road Ninja K9 Descent. I'm back. And yeah, it's been a minute since my last ShadowCast. A couple things have happened since the last ShadowCast, so we'll get right into it. Obviously, I don't know if the majority of you guys have been following me on Twitter or what have you, but the majority of what's going on happens on Twitter. If not, you can catch me on OJ Player Essence podcast. You can catch me on there from time and time again. I wasn't on there last week for personal reasons, but provided he'll have me on, I'll be on there this upcoming Thursday. I guess that's right after the holidays, so I'll be on there and look forward to another ShadowCast probably Friday. But so I'm streaming today. I had a list of things that I wanted to talk about anyway, but a couple things got put to the top of the list because of general fuckery that happens on social media as it is. So, kind of what I'm kind of alluding to here is a couple of posts that I saw on Twitter. It started sometime early last week, but some of the stuff I saw it just doesn't make any sense. And kind of what I wanted to dig into was the talk of achievements, because a lot of people want achievements on Switch, and Switch is so popular or what have you. And I get to see all kind of posts back and forth on social media talking about all kind of different things. I got a couple of examples, but the most obvious is one of these guys here. So you see this guy saying, how does Google Stadia have an achievement system yet the Switch is about to hit year 3 without them? And Iggy says, don't come here saying, well, who cares about achievements? Well, I retweeted the guy, and obviously this is what I put here. It didn't stop 50 million Switch consoles from being sold, so apparently to those users it isn't as relevant as you think, which is obvious, because if it was a showstopper, then none of those consoles would have been sold. So, and that kind of brings me to the conversation. A couple of people posted this. I think Obi-Wan posted something. The usual suspects, Spawn Wave, Super Metal Dave, what have you, and they post different reasons. And my problem is that with a couple of these individuals that are supposedly in the know, and their channels were originally about Nintendo, they had a bunch of misconceptions in there and a lot of misinformation. You had people like literally saying Nintendo has never done achievements before. And, when I correct them and tell them, hey, they have done it before. They've done it, they started with Wii and started adding them in certain games here or there. Then they say, well, they aren't system-wide. And I say, well, I mentioned Wii U too. They're also on Wii U, and Wii U's achievements were system-wide. And a while back, I had that conversation with Obi-Wan Plays, and for whatever reason, he didn't believe me. So I started bringing up everything and talking about, achievements and accomplishments. I actually have a video on my channel called Me vs. Achievements. If you go look on my channel, please go. If you're a new subscriber, please go and look at that video. It's a wealth of information on there to tell you exactly how the achievement system worked on Wii U. Then at the time, it was actually current then. They had just started making the changes right after that video to where you couldn't do custom achievements anymore, which really hurt my heart. But a lot of things were there on that platform. A lot of things were done first there on that platform with regards to the online service. And a lot of people give Nintendo shit for them not following what Sony and Microsoft do. Because they have new endeavors or what have you, voice chat and adding friends and all that other kind of stuff or whatever, and Nintendo didn't follow suit. And a lot of people give them shit for that. But when Nintendo does something cool, mainstream press and popular opinion gamers, they fucking ignore it. Miiverse was the first platform to create a game community around your game. I think the only other time that was attempted to be done was on Sega Channel back in the day, and that was, we're talking, Genesis and Sega Saturn days, as far as getting content for specific games and seeing what other people were saying about said game within an envelope without you having to go through Facebook and drill down and do whatever. It was its own network infrastructure, its own social media network for games, and there were dedicated folders, if you will, for each game. And right after Wii U came out, and Miiverse was shown to be what it was, all of a sudden, Xbox One started coming up with game tabs for individual games. So now there's a game community for those. Screenshots started showing up on consoles, pretty quickly after that too. It took one console longer than the other. I'm not really sure if it was Xbox One or PS4 that ended up doing them last, but right after Wii U came out the gate doing all this kind of stuff, then all of a sudden it magically started showing up. Thanks all you guys in the chat. I see you in there. What's up, Metal Mint? But so these things started showing up and nobody gave them credit. Nobody said, hey, you know what? Nintendo did this first and it's kind of cool. They just started talking about it when Xbox and PlayStation started doing it. So when video achievements started coming out, because Mario Kart 8 was the first game to do this, and it had YouTube embedded into the game. So anytime you saw like a cool replay or whatever, you hit a button, it magically uploads to YouTube right then and there. And the other consoles hadn't done that yet, despite them having a dedicated share button or page on their system. And you could stream on those consoles or what have you. To directly upload to YouTube from the console, then at the time, was extremely convoluted on Xbox. You had to have a live account and a Skype account, and you had to put it into the media manager or media mixer or movie player or what have you, edit it, and then send it to this other place, and then upload it to your OneDrive, and then send it to YouTube that way. It was crazy. And the same, it was just as convoluted on PlayStation at the time. So seeing Mario Kart 8 do that with a click of a button, as simple as it is on Switch right now, actually, it's basically, Switch is a subset of what that was inside of Mario Kart 8. What you do in Mario Kart 8 is exactly what you do on Switch now. You just press a button, put your message on there, and upload it, and it's done. Yeah, Nintendo never really got credit for that either, even though they were first with doing that. And Miiverse has custom achievements, which is something that still really can't be done to this day. You can upload certain videos or what have you and tag them now on Xbox Live. Not really sure what you can do at all as far as like tagging a video on PSN. I know you can record and upload and share, but as far as tagging them and say, hey, look, this is part of a trophy now, to my knowledge, that still isn't possible on PlayStation 4. I'll have to look and dig into the menus, but I haven't seen anything like that. Normally, you have a trophy, you can attribute a snapshot to it if you want to, and that's about it. But yeah, Nintendo did that stuff first, and they don't get any fucking credit for it. And I see all these posts and whatnot, and I see individuals post what they post, and they just really don't give motherfuckers credit for it. So like, just kind of like going a little back and forth here. I don't want y'all really. You can see my notifications all you want, but it's like just crazy shit. Anyways, what I originally posted back then, it was this guy here. He did it the most, and it was kind of crazy what he posted, because I'm like, why would you even say anything like that? Which is kind of weird. I don't even know why he did that. It was just a crazy statement he threw out there. Trying to see where he put it here. Right here. So this post here is just after I had already discussed with him maybe a week or so ago regarding what I'm talking about right now. So I just talked about Miiverse and talked about the accomplishments and everything, right? So here we go, and this guy posted this again. And so what my frustration here is, after we had that conversation, right? and you accepted the fact that, hey, yeah, Nintendo has done this. They've done this consistently from Wii to Wii U, and they went from, hey, just a couple of games to now their entire online infrastructure had it embedded, right? He of course downplays and says, well, no, I can't go check and do whatever. And I'm like, yeah, you could check. All you had to do was go to Miiverse.net and you could look at them. As a matter of fact, now if you go on to, I forget the name of the server name now, but it's basically connected to the Wayback Machine. But there's a Miiverse emulator out there. So if you just go and you go search Miiverse and Wayback, you'll find all your Miiverse posts. You can go in there, sign in with your username and everything. You can see everything that you posted. You can see all your accomplishments and whatnot. They use basically the Wayback Machine to mine everything, and it's related to your account. So you can pull up everything, pull down all the images and whatnot. So you could still do it to this day and see everything that you wanted to see as far as comparing games, looking at stuff that you did in those games and whatnot, with the photo evidence of what you did in there with your custom achievements and whatnot. And he just kept saying, he kept moving the goalposts from one thing to another. So once I said, hey, they were system wide on Wii U, now we're like, well, how do I go check it outside of the console? As if that fucking matters. And then once I say, hey, you can check it outside of the console, he still says, well, there's no gamer score. Like, what the fuck? Like, there's not a gamer score on PlayStation either. It's just percentages, and it's a different type of trophy that you get. So why do you keep moving these goalposts to different things? But I posted the entire conversation as a reply on here, if I could actually see it. I don't know why it's not showing it now, but here we go. So I just put the entire conversation here for everybody to see, right? So you can see here. He's talking about they still don't have achievements as if they never had them. If you follow me, you probably have played Metroid Prime 3 Corruption at this point. There were achievements all in that game, and it actually forced you to exchange friend codes with other people to get some of the other accomplishments in the game. So, and I mentioned that this happens, and I just told him to stop spreading misinformation. And of course, he doesn't care. He thinking that I'm trolling. Like, no, I'm telling the fucking truth here. And he moved the goalpost to, what was system wide and what wasn't, right? And I told him, I said, hey, Miiverse was the entire online infrastructure, and it was system wide. Now that's when I say, hey, did you not play the system? And it's weird to me because the entire Miiverse UI, War Plaza, is your background. Like you stream with that in the background all the time behind your green screen. So how do you not know that this is the deal unless you're being intentionally naive? And I can talk about intentionally naive a lot, how people just try to play it off and say, hey, yeah, I'm going to pretend like I don't know what you're talking about because I want to continue to spread the false message that I want to spread, which is, some people do that shit. It's crazy. You see a lot in politics too, but that's a whole nother podcast that I'm not going to do. So I'm like, look, I'm tired of the bullshit at this point. So I'm just like, look, I got the receipts and I showed all the pictures of my accomplishments that I pulled from said archive page, right? So you can see all the screenshots of either custom accomplishments I have or accomplishments you get from beating the game or what have you, right? So I showed those couple things on here, and I obviously I clearly said, hey, the issue is you're wrong on this or using confirmation bias to fit your flawed argument. Wii U has system-wide achievements, right? Then this is what he posts. I'm done. I remember those. Okay, how about I'm sorry, my bad, I really fucked up? No, he just says I remember those. Yeah, I guess those were achievements. Yes, they fucking were achievements. Then he says, let me check my achievement score trophies. Oh, wait. Like, what the fuck? Like, don't check your achievement score or trophies because Nintendo doesn't have achievements. They have accomplishments. You can't check a trophy because they don't do trophies. They do accomplishments. That's like me saying, hey, let me go check my accomplishments on Xbox Live. Oh, wait, they're not there. Of course they're not fucking there because Xbox Live is not Miiverse. Why the fuck would you make that argument? It doesn't make any fucking sense. But anyway, so he tries to say there's no defending it and talking about the online service when the entire conversation was about achievements. So now you want to just say, hey, the online is bad to me, in my opinion, for these tick box type features that I'm looking for. Well, that wasn't what you throw out there. What you throw out there was Nintendo never had achievements, which was a fucking lie. So I put it out there, and then I told him, I said, look, man, you moving goalposts. You claim they didn't exist. They do. They are system-wide on Wii U. A score is just a hex value. It's nothing special. And it's true. So you get an achievement in the game. They assign a hex value to it. And it accumulates with everything else on your system. And the same thing for the trophies on PlayStation or whatever. They assign a value to whether it's gold or platinum or what have you. And they weight it and give you a certain percentage or a certain overall gamer score. I mean, it's EPing cred, basically. Like, you're weighing your penis saying, hey, I beat this game, and I did this thing in this game, even though I didn't finish it, and that weighs up to this arbitrary score, which means what exactly? What do you do with the gamer score you have once you have over 100,000 gamer score, what have you, across all your Xbox family of systems? Nothing, actually. Nothing. There's nothing special that happens. At one point in time, Microsoft promised, hey, you'll get real world rewards for doing this kind of stuff, right? So I joined this arbitrary program back in, I want to say 2014 or what have you. Microsoft started sending stuff out saying, hey, look, since you're in this family program, which they were killing on Xbox One, by the way, hey, join this other program, and all the gamer score points you get, we'll convert them into Microsoft points so you can buy shit, right? Lo and behold, about 2 years later after that, I stopped getting emails. I log on, I may see some rewards here, I may see nothing there or whatever. So basically over 4 years of me dealing with this program, I got about 400 Microsoft points, which does nothing. You could really buy nothing with that amount of Microsoft points, because they have some arbitrary value where like 1,200 or something equals $1 or some dumb shit like that. So it just wasn't even, it isn't even the same. It isn't even the same weight that it is on the original Xbox 360. I don't know if you guys remember the Microsoft point system on 360, where I think like 600 Microsoft points was close to $1 or something like that. It was completely different on the live.com site. So it's like the craziest thing ever. But anyway, so that kind of fell through, and all of a sudden, what I don't get about it is this was something that Nintendo had been doing since GameCube. You buy a game, you get a little code on the back of it, you put that code in on Nintendo.com, and all of a sudden you can get swag and shit, or you get discounts for games or whatnot. And they've been doing that, since 2004, maybe longer. And it took Microsoft this long to come up with this thing to try to trade in Gamerscore for this, and it didn't even really pan out. I don't even know if it even exists anymore. But, I just told them that the score wasn't nothing special. And I said, hey, you can't call Nintendo behind when they did custom achievements, video achievements, and game community boards first with their online. Which is true. So he held a major L on that one. I don't know what the deal was with that. But this dude is just killing me, man. I can't. And it's like, so you had that conversation with me. And then you still repost this shit. For what reason? So, like, if you just wanted to complain and say, hey, I think the Switch should get achievements, because now it seems like every platform is getting them, what's the hold up, Nintendo? Why haven't you put them on Switch? We know you tried to do something similar like this before, but you didn't put them on Switch. No, we want to intentionally say that Nintendo has never done it for some reason. And Super Metal Dave did it too. He said the same shit, and I'm like, why are y'all spreading misinformation like this? Do y'all just really, really, really want Nintendo to have never done it? The accomplishment whole thing, you want it to never exist. You want to wipe it from history. Why? It makes no sense. And then the whole argument is kind of crazy anyway, because all the games that have some type of achievement system in them on other platforms, for the most part, especially the third-party ones, they just put that achievement system inside the Switch anyway. It just doesn't tie to a gamer score or anything, but you still unlock them. I'm playing Grease right now, and achievements are in that motherfucker. It doesn't go to a gamer score or anything, but they show up in there. If I want to go back and look at the challenges, I see which ones I unlock. The same thing for Shovel Knight, the same thing for Cuphead. I mean, like, all these games, all those achievements and challenges are still in there. It doesn't change at all. So, it's just frustrating to me to, hear that kind of that ignorance online, and people just constantly go through that shit, and And I'm like, what is your deal? Why is this so important to you? Why do you feel the need to constantly mislead people? And that's just part of the frustration dealing with social media. Period. And when you tell people, hey, look, you're full of shit and you're gaslighting people, they'll acknowledge what you said, or they'll acknowledge what you said in one of two ways. They'll play it off, act like it never happened, and still lie about it again, or they'll mute/block you, right? And the funny thing about it is, if they mute/block you, you can still quote and retweet them if you find the tweet, right? You can still post about them again. For whatever reason, their mutuals will see it, show it to them. They will unblock you, go comment, and then block you again. This shit has happened to me for years now. And it bewilders me. I'm like, bruh, if you block me, I thought you didn't want to see my shit no more. Or one of your friends came and told you what I said, and now all of a sudden you care and you want to come talk about it again. It's happened multiple times. I can give you some clear examples, but I won't do that here. I'm already showing people's names on social media, what have you. But yeah, that's just kind of frustrating. Like Miiverse has been doing all the achievement things for a while, and Nintendo has been doing the accomplishment thing for a very long time. Sight Truck, all those kind of games had those things built in. So just if you call yourself a Nintendo fan, right? You claim to be a Nintendo fan and you have all of this Nintendo stuff in your videos. You're taking pictures with, Nintendo reps or what have you. But you don't know these minor things about this platform that you were apparently, at one point in time you were championing this platform. I don't get it. Like, did you fucking use the console? Like, what are we talking about here? So, and Jam put in the comments that Street Pass, Me Plaza had accomplishments too. Yeah, a couple of 3DS games had them too. And once Miiverse tied into the 3DS, you could do them on there too. It was a little bit limited on 3DS. Miiverse on 3DS was a little bit limited, but it was basically the same. So you had a portable, giving you the same experience as far as that achievement system. So yeah, I appreciate you guys hanging out. It's I guess get the likes up in the on YouTube or what have you, whatever y'all watching this on right now. I'm not really sure if my second stream went up on Twitch or not. I know that Streamlabs did something and promoted the page or some weird shit. There's mad updates on this thing, and it's doing everything now. It's reaching out all kind of crazy ways. I really have no idea how any of this shit works right now, but I appreciate it. I got I have a message that's hell. I don't know what happened there. Jam says, "Hey Shadow, got a question. What are your thoughts on the narrative that Nintendo first-party games only sell well due to a lack of competition from third parties? I personally think it's bullshit." Yes, the inverse is actually true. Third parties are afraid to be on Nintendo platforms because A, they have to pay the licensing fee, which Nintendo for the most part does not go down on. They have to pay for advertising, which Sony and Microsoft for the most part will work a deal with you and help partner to create commercials and product marketing for your game. And on top of that, they have to compete with Nintendo on their own platform. So November 2017 would be a bad year to release a Call of Duty game on Nintendo Switch. Every other platform, maybe it'll sell pretty well. On Nintendo Switch, good luck. And we all know how Black Ops 2, while being one of the best efforts on any platform that I've ever played on Wii U, it didn't sell well at all. Especially for a Call of Duty game. And of course, the lobbies were empty for a bit. It was just dead for the most part compared to other platforms. You're talking about hundreds of thousands on 360, and you might hit 10K on Wii U. So it wasn't that many people playing the games, and that's a clear testament to Nintendo's power as a first party. Because please believe, Nintendo Land was getting played, Ninja Gaiden was getting played, New Super Mario Bros. U was getting played. Miiverse was lit the fuck up with people posting stuff on the launch of the system, going all the way until December. I think I've seen a couple of posts on Call of Duty, but it wasn't the case. And this goes all the way back to just about every platform they've had. If you look at Wii, Call of Duty, it sold okay. It sold like 1 million copies a piece on Wii, but we're talking about over 100 million units out here. And we're talking about the same platform that sold, well over 40 million copies of Mario Kart. So why, Call of Duty can't sell that well on that platform is competition. It literally is. It's competition. You've got to not only promote your game, your effort has to be as good as it would be on if Nintendo made the game. So you taking a 360 engine, shoehorning in 480p and trying to get it to work on Wii, having lackluster effort as far as support, be it the maps, online updates, and shit like that. Like, what do you expect? People are not going to buy it. So while all those limitations for Wii, they pretty much disappeared for Wii U. But Wii U and Switch, you're still getting the same thing because the port team is a fraction of the size of the original team that made the game on the other platforms. So you're not going to have enough time for, patches and other updates and other additional content, downloadable content and whatnot, if the Nintendo platform was seen as a third leg with regards to being a target platform. Nintendo will always make their platform priority. So you're gonna get free DLC for years. You're gonna get all kind of critical performance, otherwise not seen by third parties on hardware that's seen as limited. This is why you see 1080p on the platform where people thought 1080p wasn't possible. Then Nintendo shows you how the frame buffer works on Wii U, and how you're supposed to use the eDRAM, and magically 1080p is possible pretty easily. It just goes to show you that this is one of the things where how do you expect people to go and pay for a product that's nowhere near as far as effort and care, is nowhere near anything that Nintendo is doing. And like most people say, Nintendo consoles are the house that Mario built. So if it's not Mario, it's not happening for the most part. Because Mario is synonymous with quality and fun for the most part. And those other games, not so much. So even though I kind of like the good Call of Duty games, there's some good ones out there that I'm fond of. I'm not really like going into all of them and playing through every single campaign looking for the guy with follow over his head. It's not, that shit gets old pretty quick, and it's not really as fun, especially when you play on the harder challenges and you don't even know where the fucking bullets are coming from. So versus other games that like Halo really mastered how shooting goes and how to make certain, and not just shooting itself, but just setting up scenarios where you can have gunfights, and each scenario where you can have a gunfight is like a giant playground. That isn't really the case in Call of Duty games. It's more just like every area you run into is fatal funnel, and you have to be so careful to run to the next area, because if you stay open for any period of time, you get picked off. Whereas in Halo, you're actually rewarded to explore and try to figure out the better parts of how to work a certain level. I think that comes down to how people develop the game and how much time they spend fine tuning, different areas of a game to make sure that every second that you're playing of the game is fun. And the way games are developed now, like, you got people developing games that don't even know each other. With regards to Ubisoft and EA and Activision, at some point, you got people all around the world developing engines and shit and doing gameplay types, and you got people testing that aren't even talking to each other because they're on different parts of the fucking planet. So how are you going to make an effective product? How is your product going to work in practice if in practice you testing the game, you developing the game is basically a conference call? Certain things you can't really do over the internet like that. Certain things you have to be in the same room to brainstorm and figure out certain problems. Like I don't know. But anyways, yeah, that's I don't know why people say that, first party games only sell because, the lack of competition from other. No, there's no way. We all know that if you took Sony first party games, if you took Microsoft first party games, they're not going to sell as well as they do on Nintendo. Period. They're not. That's just the fact of the matter. And if there's any case in point, if there's anything to further prove that stance, all you have to do is look at Sony and Microsoft now putting their first party games on Nintendo hardware. What does that tell you? They know what is happening. They know that Nintendo sells games. They sell them. And all you have to do is be on their platform and you've got a wealth of opportunity because, hey, this is a platform where motherfuckers buy Mario Kart like crazy. Close to 20 million sold already on the platform that's, it's over 50 million. So they're hedging their bet saying, I'm guessing this platformer we have over here on Xbox One, it might look pretty good on a platformer friendly system like Switch. Oh, and you can take it anywhere, which means free advertising. So whenever somebody plays it in portable mode, they're going to show it to somebody else, and then maybe they'll want to buy that game too. It's just a crazy narrative. Didn't know if there was another question there. Says Nova Region said Activision never really supported the Wii U. The community was begging for DLC, but the audience was ignored outright. Yes, I would say the same thing for Ubisoft as well. I still have the screenshot of the Zombie U. Hey, there will be DLC. There will be a patch coming for this game. Like it's built into the game on the fucking floor in the game. In the main waiting area there that you use to defend yourself from zombies or whatnot. It's just sitting there on the fucking floor and it says signed dev team, and nobody ever did anything. The game never got patched. So it's just one of those things. Like Wii U was left to die. It really was. Like I think Ubisoft, EA, and Activision were all competing to see if they were going to be the online infrastructure for Nintendo. And if they were able to get in there, then everything would be all fine. And they would kiss Nintendo's ass. And I'm like, every third party was trying to do that, but they know it was only going to be one victor. And in this case, it was 0 victors because Nintendo said, fuck it, we'll do it ourselves. So, it's just crazy. It's crazy. Oh, we got Andre in the house. What's up, man? What's going on? But yeah, no, the patch never happened for Zombie U. It never happened. It's the craziest thing because it's way easier to patch games on Wii U versus Wii. So, he said Wii Party U and Wind Waker HD outsold Skylanders, Sonic Colors, Arkham Origins, Deus Ex, Assassin's Creed 4, etc. Say they were saying, yeah. Anyone thinks Breath of the Wild will flop with GTA on Switch is crazy. Yeah, of course not. And what's so funny is the case for Grand Theft Auto being on Switch, the excuses are getting dumber and dumber. I just scrolled through and I looked and I saw the entire complete edition of Saints Row the Third on the platform. I was really tempted to buy it again, but it's just the craziest thing, man. Obviously, open world is possible on just about any platform these days. Any platform can take a scalable engine. And all these excuses, you'll hear a fanboy here and there say, oh, well, it's not a real platform because you can't play real games, and they want to mention GTA as one of those real games. I'm like, do y'all remember how ugly that game looked on a lot of platforms? Even like GTA 4, it's a lot of iffy shit in that game. GTA 5 looks kind of good now on the newer platforms, Xbox One X and PS4 Pro. But the original launch is kind of muddy, not really that clean. Which makes sense because the game mass is pretty large. But um, yeah, but to say that's not possible on the platform, and then talk about what the game library is and what can sell and what can't, that's really a misnomer. Like if they want the game to sell, they'll put it on the platform. They'll do good by it by making it a good release and make sure it's not buggy as fuck. And they'll promote it like crazy. They'll say, "Hey, look, for the first time ever, you can play GTA in your hand." Things like that. That's what should be happening. But they don't want to do that because they want to talk to Nintendo and have Nintendo pay for it all, which makes no fucking sense to me. Because if you're a third party publisher, why aren't you doing the publishing if that's your job? That's just one of the craziest things. Just really really bothering me. Okay, game I just say he's working and listening. I appreciate it. I appreciate your time. Yeah, that was just one of the issues I kind of want to talk. The achievement system is just, it's always been there. Yes, I understand the comments and the complaints about, hey, Switch to have this stuff, so you should be able to go on Switch Online or use another conversation I was having was the Switch Online app. And if you go on the Switch Online app, you can say, hey, look, you can track your achievements or what have you through that. You click on the game, see all your achievements, and be able to compare them to other people with pick the username or whatever and do a comparison. That would be cool. That would be great. However, Nintendo is Nintendo. They're not trying to be like everybody else. And what benefit does Nintendo get by going through all the R&D of building this right now after Switch is already out and selling millions? I mean, there's 50 million out there right now. So, as of right now, they should scrap what the fuck they're doing right now. Like, i.e., they're probably already working on a successor to Switch right now. It's probably whatever 10th generation is going to be. That's what they're working on right now. So they should scrap that to build an add-on to the network infrastructure just so it can meet a checkbox that Sony and Microsoft already have. And that's magically going to get them another 50 million units sold. Like, what is the end game here? Like, I don't really see what is it supposed to be. Like, okay, yeah, it'll be great. You would probably, if you're that type of gamer that relies on that type of constant validation, then maybe you enjoy playing the console more. But if that's the case, I really wonder why you're playing games in the first place. Because if that's what you need, I don't know. I just really think that you're in the wrong hobby, to be honest with you. Somebody mentioned it earlier today. They said, as far as I'm concerned, the achievements in old school games was unlocking more content. And that's true. The older games, hey, if you were good, you unlock the extra costumes, you unlock the upside down castle, you unlock, whatever, the master sword or whatever you need. You played the second quest, that type of stuff you did. If you were good at the game, get good. You would get all the extra endings in Street Fighter 2 if you knew how to beat the game by getting all perfects or not having to continue or what have you, playing through the story mode. Things like that. Like you don't just download the shit, you don't just pay for it. You play the game, see how good you are, and see what you get in return. And you don't need to go on the internet to go tell people that. You know what I mean? Like, it was, you got your validation by it being there. And, somebody, Jan put, he said, remember all those Switch needs X in order to succeed videos? Oh, I very, very distinctly remember all the videos from Review Tech USA talking about how the Switch was not going to succeed because it only had 32 gigs of flash storage. And then, of course, Super Metal Dave has no idea that flash storage is already on Switch, talking about SSDs and shit for a supposed Switch Pro. But that's neither here nor there. I've already dismantled exactly how all those excuses are null and void and don't make any sense whatsoever, and it doesn't determine what next gen is. So I just don't get why some gamers out here, I almost regret to call them gamers, they need this system that was invented in 2005, and I'm like, what the fuck were you doing before Xbox 360 came out? How were you playing games then? What were you doing? And and especially before the original Xbox and GameCube, because there wasn't too much internet then at the time. So how were you playing these games and how were you enjoying them? Because there was no way for you to go online. There was no way for you to go talk to other people, like maybe AOL or some shit, and you go in maybe a chat room and talk about the console games you play. But like, how were you telling people that you beat this level or what have you? Like, that shit didn't exist. So I guess early 6th generation and 5th generation, you either weren't born or you were living in hell because you weren't able to get your e-penis certified online every day by playing games. Like, I just don't get it. I don't get it. And what I don't understand about that is, once you point that kind of stuff out, they'll blow it off and just say, well, you're just saying that because Switch doesn't have it or whatever. I'm like, motherfucker, if I wanted achievements that bad, I would just go back to playing Wii U games and do my custom achievements or whatever the built-in achievements were on those platforms. Or I deal with the old ones on Wii. Or I would go and play my fucking 360. Like, I don't, or my Xbox One and start achievement hunt on there. And they don't matter. They don't matter at all. And I mentioned online, I mentioned on Twitter on here, and I said, hey, I kind of quit when I started playing games on Xbox Live, and motherfucking games had hidden achievements. The fuck? So, like, and it would be completely random. There's no idea of what you need to do to get said hidden achievement, and there's no rhyme or reason. And some of them wouldn't necessarily be for you being good at the game. It would be like, oh, you died 19 times or some shit. Like, I think in Dead or Alive 4, you got achievements for being bad and leveling down as worse as possible. Like, who the fuck wants to do that? And so these are the things that they've baked into these games now, and it doesn't add any fulfillment at all. I mean, I'm playing a fighting game and I don't get credit for doing a certain type of combo, or if it's a very, very a very difficult combo but well known within inside the game, or a difficult technique within inside the game, and I'm able to pull it off accurately and I don't get any recognition for that. What's the point of this shit then? I mean, that means I should probably just be able to make custom achievements and show them to people, right? Hey, here's my combo video. Accomplishment. Done. But, that didn't exist on other platforms for a while, and they definitely still don't on Steam, and probably not even Stadia at this point. It looks like they're the same old, hey, do the same things that you would do on 360, and we even named them the same. So here we sit, and what I don't get is, why the fuck are you pimping Stadia? I thought Stadia flopped. So, anyways. So the next thing that I had on the docket here was the Game Awards. I don't even want to give my reaction on that. I think Game Idea guy kind of knows. He bear witness to a lot of that shit. It was a hilarious night, but during the Game Awards, the Xbox Series X was revealed. I don't know if I want to go over this or not. It's kind of frustrating to me, but this platform, if I should call it that, is it is a sight to behold. It is definitely a sight to behold. It is an interesting beast here. this thing, what I don't get is GameSpot did a video talking about this after the basically the video that was released at the Game Awards was already briefed to press a couple of weeks prior, and they just had an NDA, so they couldn't talk about it until after the Game Awards, right? So, you know, they go back and they talk about, you know, this video they were given along with speech or some type of voice message from Phil Spencer regarding the platform. So this was the console he had sitting in his living room at home or what have you. Apparently it was sitting sideways according to them. But everything they said about this console sounds like a fucking commercial. And I'm like, why am I listening to a commercial if GameSpot is supposed to be a verifiable news source with regards to, hey, gaming journalism? So they're supposed to get the facts, the when, the why, and the how as far about this, how this console goes. But all I kept hearing was, hey, well, this controller is going to feel really good. And, well, have you held it yet? No, but I'm just looking at the size. If you look at the picture, and I'm like, dude, what are we doing here? What are we doing? So you've got this PC looking thing here, with this giant vent on the top, basically looking like a 2013 Mac Pro, but in rectangular prism form. So basically all the air shoots out the top or the side from what you're looking at here. Obviously this is still a render. This isn't the actual picture here, but you know, you have your eject button and your one slot loading disk drive here, which means that, hey, there, you know, the Xbox One X will take disks. The thing is, we know those discs will have to be huge because if you're talking about playing 4K content, now your RSS or 4 times as big, and we're talking about games being anywhere between 100 to 200 gigs in size. I mean, we've already seen the majority of the limits of some of these type of games, with NBA 2K being close to 100 gigs or over 100 gigs after all patches were installed. So you up the resolution, it's going to be exponentially bigger for that reason. And you're talking about a new platform that's supposed to supposedly support 8K at this point, which is also kind of frustrating. Power your dreams, Jesus Christ. So the big thing about this is supposed to be ray tracing. I mean, I don't want to play this damn video. I would rather just look at the specifications. I have to look at this again here. Forgot what the, let's see what the, I forgot where the spec list was here, if they'll show them. But all they mentioned was 14 teraflops, I believe, and that was the gist of it. If I can see it, I'll just look at Newsweek. Let's just go from what because they're going to talk about the same spiel that they gave everybody else, which is similar to what Sony is giving everybody right about now at the same time. But so here we go. So they released a press release. I didn't get that for some reason, but they sent out a press release. I guess it was just to Game Journal Pros or whoever email list. Normally they send out an email list to everybody with a DevNet account, but I didn't get it. In the press release, they talked about they kept performance details vague. Of course they did, because they got competition out there. The CPU would be a custom AMD Zen chipset. So basically, instead of being a custom Zen 2 chipset, what they're going to do is it's going to be embedded again. And we don't know if it's going to be an MCM or if the CPU and the GPU will be on the same substrate, which is what an MCM would be. But if they're going to be on the same substrate or different substrates, still covered by the same fan and heatsink. So it's possible for them to be separate modules, but still be under the same heatsink, or they could actively be cooled separately. And the way this giant fan is sticking out the side of this, I tend to believe that it's ultra embedded and it's all in one. It's all in one package, and there's a giant heatsink on top of it, and it's drawing all the heat out of it. But anyway, so the CPU really doesn't matter, and this is kind of the thing that I wanted to. This is the fucking bullshit that I hated during the beginning of the 8th generation when people were talking shit about the Wii U. So they were talking about the Wii U because the 360 and the PS3 at the time then had faster CPU core clocks, right? And Wii U had smaller core clock and less SIMD performance. The whole point of Wii U having smaller SIMD performance is so the CPU wouldn't be getting fucking hot doing that kind of dumb shit. You have a GPU with a shitload of SIMD shaders on it so you can do your parallel heterogeneous compute that way. If there's heavy lifting or heavy multiply adds, send that shit as a GPU task and send it back to the CPU to interpret. Way easier than waiting on the CPU to do it, even if you had a stronger CPU there that could crunch that shit. And people didn't understand that until all of a sudden the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4 get announced. And hey, let's see here. Oh, they have half the CPU clock speed as the Xbox One did. There's no 3.2 gigahertz. We're talking, 1 to 2 gigahertz at this point. And magically, nobody had a problem with those CPU speeds at that point. And they're tablet CPUs. There's not a lot of heavy lifting. They're both slower than the CPU in the Nintendo Switch right now, which is, of course, I've talked about this on multiple podcasts before, but that is a unpopular opinion that is very true. So anytime somebody talks shit to you and say, hey, why are you playing that weak ass Nintendo Switch? And you just say, oh, that's funny because the CPU in this Nintendo Switch is faster per clock than what's in your PlayStation 4. And then watch their face melt. But it's just odd that they talk about this Zen 2 chipset. It doesn't matter. And I have a strange feeling that it's going to be severely underclocked. There won't be any 3 gigahertz speeds on the CPU. The GPU is going to be doing the bulk of the work here. So that's probably where the majority of the heat is going to come from in this platform. So the GPU they're talking about is built on the RDNA architecture, which means that it's a Navi GPU. We don't know if it's Navi 10, the mystical Navi 15, Navi 2.0 or 20, or Navi 25, which is also rumored to be out there, which is a basically TikTok cycle. So you have new architecture, then you have revision of new architecture for less performance per watt. Then you have die shrink in the next iteration for more performance per clock. Then you have a new architecture again. So we don't know if Navi 1.5 or Navi 2.5 is either a die shrink or it is just a performance improvement of the 1.0 or the 2.0. We don't know if any of those architecture types are going to be in here. And for what I understand, it's going to be custom anyway. So it could be a mix of the two. So they might say, hey, we like how the uniform shaders are here, but we like the increased TMU count over here. And then they mix the two together and create something that's nothing like any of the other two GPUs, which is similar to what Wii U does to this day. If you look at die shots of the GPU, there's motherfuckers that still can't identify a lot of the shader cores that are in the GPU. So there's custom logic there, and people are like, hey, what's that? We're talking about a new console handles 4K 60 FPS. Okay, whatever. Like, we need speeds and feeds, bro, before you start talking about shit like this, because we don't know what you mean by 4K at 60 FPS, because we need to know 60 frames per second 4K. We need to know what the frame buffer is. We need to know what the frame buffer is. We need to know what the render targets are, what size the render targets are, and we need to know what your GDDR6 bandwidth is going to be. Your total estimated bandwidth is going to be, because GDDR6 could be anywhere between 50 gigabytes per second, or it could be 500 gigabytes per second, or it could be 1 terabyte per second. If everything's all combined together and you make one giant wide path to all the RAM modules on that node. So it's similar to how the EDRAM works on Wii U and the ESRAM worked on Xbox One. You have a bunch of DDR banks, and you create one giant path for all of them, and then there's 1 0 for each wide path. So you created a bunch of very small DDR paths and made them one giant path. So the bandwidth in both directions is super wide and super scalar at that point. So you can come up with giant bandwidth numbers for that small amount of pool of memory that you have. They could do the same thing with GDDR6. They could do it. It'll be expensive, but they could bank it out and make it one giant pool of memory for the GPU and the CPU, and they both talk together. The south bridge for the CPU is actually the GPU, and it talks directly to RAM, and that giant pool acts as a giant EDRAM cache, and it could be fast as fuck. It could be possible. I somehow doubt it, but I think what they're trying to do now is make sure they're just at parity with whatever Sony's coming out with. And it looks like GDDR6 and having a Zen 2 CPU is what they're doing also. So they're just trying to make sure that, hey, we have it too. If we need to increase clocks, we will. So it looks like we're better on paper by the time we launch in 2020. That's kind of what it looks like they're trying to do. I know y'all haven't had a ShadowCast like this where I sit here and actually talk about specs the whole time, huh? But it's been a minute. But so here we go, talking about having an 8-core CPU. They say targeting around 3.5 gigahertz. I'm telling you, I do not believe this. And the reason why I'm telling you I don't believe this is right here. We're talking about 12 teraflops right here, right? So currently, with the 6 and 8 teraflop GPUs that are out right now that are Navi based, you got. I'm not really looking at an ad down here. This is some craziness. Anyway, so with those, they draw significant heat. And yes, I get it. This is going to be embedded. But even with it being embedded, there's other stuff that's going to be on the motherboard for the Xbox Series X. So this is going to be significant power draw, and it's going to generate significant heat. Something's going to have to give. They can't compromise here at all. The RAM, if I can click on RAM, looks like I can't anymore. Anyways, the RAM has to stay cool as well. Otherwise, you're going to have operating issues. The storage doesn't have to be as cool, but an NVMe can get pretty hot, and hopefully there's a heatsink on it as well, because it'll get fucking hot and it'll get stupid. So, but I mean that's kind of the gist. Some of the other things I'm looking at here, they were trying to compare it to the Xbox One X. Not that it really matters. Phil Spencer's talking about, hey, we wanted to have a dramatic upgrade from the Xbox One base console. So when we do the math, we're over 8 times the GPU power of the Xbox One and 2 times what an Xbox One X is. Does it really matter though if you're still coming up with, hey, we're still gaming at the same resolution? And I heard some talk about the 8K, but I don't think they're gonna put that on paper. They're just gonna talk about that to say, hey, look, we can start pushing games at 8K if that's what, the market determines. But they're not gonna determine it because 8K cameras are just now becoming commonplace. So if you got video out here that still hasn't gotten to that level yet, we're trying to jump there with video games. And we don't even have the fucking 1080p games right yet. We still, like, a 1080p 60 game is a rare find. Even on Xbox One X and PlayStation 4 Pro. Those games, they don't tune them well for performance or resolution. So you play these games and you might get 60 frames per second. Guess what's happening? Adaptive resolution. That shit is changing resolution on the fly every other frame to make sure it stays at 60, is locked at 60. And if not, what happens? You end up with frame targeting. So now you're playing a game and you've got a game that starts at 60 frames per second. The action slows down. It goes down to the 30s and sometimes to the fucking teens, and then goes back up to 60 again. So that's the type of stuff you end up getting. And it's not going to be like a Nintendo game where they're just like, well, when the game starts tuning down, we will adjust our gameplay input so that you do not notice it, i.e. like Ocarina of Time. I don't know if anybody knows that, but the frame rate on that game is absolutely shit. But you can't tell while you're playing because your input matches the frame rate. So anytime that you notice slowdown in the game or what have you, your input is not delayed. So whatever you put in while it's going slow, your input is being recognized at that slow frame rate. And that's, you can tell a lot of testing had been done for something like that to occur. Because any other game, you do any other game like that, if the frame rate goes slow in any other type of game that you're playing, whatever you punched in like 2 minutes ago is magically going to come out whenever the fuck it wants to, and it looks weird. It feels weird, and now you're removed from the game and it's jarring. So again, like, development is what's going to determine whether specs are even going to matter at all. I kind of, and I talked before about this, where I think that Mark Cerny was getting at the whole SSD thing being a magical tool, even though RAM is much faster than an SSD with regards to storing data and caching for loads. If developers start rewriting their games and changing their fucked up processes for basically making games way bigger than RAM and then trying to load an entire level before you ever play it, so all that shit sitting in RAM just taking up space instead of segmenting their games properly. If Mark Cerny gets them to bite on this SSD shit, they'll segment them properly and they'll make games as well as Nintendo does, and you don't have to worry about these huge ass file sizes. You don't have to worry about having these long ass load times. Like, I unfortunately, one of the biggest offenders of that was the original Halo game. Like, before you played the Silent Cartographer, you had to sit there for a hot minute. You're sitting there waiting, and all you just hear is "oh," and it's waiting to load that one level. And I'm like, I never had this problem in Metroid Prime. What the fuck is going on? So, it's just, and that's not a testament to the hardware. Obviously, somebody could program Metroid Prime for Xbox, for original Xbox, right? It was just how they made the game. And since that's how they made the game, that's what it is. Like, the Mac is way more powerful hardware than the original Xbox was, but guess what? In that port, it still has the same issue because of how the game was programmed. So, I'm thinking that hopefully Cerny will trick the third parties and the rest of the industry. So, hopefully they'll get into doing planning their projects in this manner. And if they do that, then that will help all of us, because that will mean that we'll get back to load times we were used to on cartridges. Yay. We're going all the way back to the 5th generation. Y'all remember that? But that being said, 13 gigs for games and 3 gigabytes for the operating system. What kind of operating system are you using where you need 3 gigs around? But 16 gigs total is supposed to have, right? 13 gigs for games. I think that's what would help eliminate a lot of the load times as well. Not necessarily the SSD. It would be having, essentially an extra 6 gigs of RAM to play with as far as games go. So you can develop large render targets, even though you probably shouldn't. You can stream the game a little bit more effectively, so you don't have to preload entire levels and wait forever to play them. And a lot of error correction can happen on the fly by writing back to memory whenever the CPU is waiting for a state, or the GPU is waiting for an update from the CPU. Those kind of things can be held in between, so one is not waiting on the other and you get a faster product. So maybe, just maybe, those things will come into play just by using the RAM itself and changing how they develop games. That's kind of what I'm hoping will happen. But like I said, I mean, nobody's perfect, and why fix what to them isn't broke, because they still make money developing games the same broke way. And no offense, y'all still buy the shit, so they see no reason to change. But yeah, that's how I feel about this. I think you probably get a gist of how I feel about these revealed specs, if you will. It's gonna be more of PlayStation 5. That's what it's gonna be. PlayStation 5, and hey, we'll play games in 4K or we'll be able to do HDR things, Ultra HDR things, and we'll have the same problems from other generations. We'll still have invisible walls, unfortunately. You'll still have issues where they'll be clipping. I mean, that's just what happens when you go graphics, and not gameplay. But that's what Sony and Microsoft are into, because they don't have anything else to really go on. To be honest with you, they're not master game developers like that. Sony used to be, but they fucking stopped. Their internal studios stopped, and they just start paying external studios to be their internal studios, and they just send them money and see whenever they develop a project, and then they get back to them. I don't know why they ever stopped. I love their internal games. It was amazing on their original PlayStation, on the PS1. A lot of the stuff that they made. And it was crazy to me. And even the stuff that they didn't make, like them partnering with Takara, like, oh my god, man, Toshin didn't, like, I don't, nobody did stuff like that back then. And I don't know why Sony walked away from it, because to be honest with you, all that weird Japanese shit is what made PlayStation special. And they kind of, which is funny, because I just got a comment on Twitter talking about how I hate PlayStation so much. No, I miss PlayStation so much. It's not what it used to be. But yeah, I think if they went back to that, man, they can get back to the glory days. But I don't know if it's a combination of, hey, those people aren't there anymore, or hey, the focus has really changed to, we don't really want to be developing games for much longer because we got other plans and we want to move to something else. Especially with, the PlayStation 3 was a big loss for them. They're just now making money on PlayStation 4, and of course, Xbox has never made profit for Microsoft. So, I think they're really kind of they're ceding to what the game industry is. They have failed to be profitable every year, like Nintendo does. So, it's hurt them over time, and Microsoft's new CEO never liked Xbox coming in. When he first came in, he's like, it's not Azure, so it needs to go. I don't know how long Xbox has on the chopping block, and I don't know what Sony proper is planning on doing with Sony Computer Entertainment. But both of these platforms, they're dishing out whatever they can, because they're looking for enough users in case they become headless systems at some point, and you just subscribe to a service and get it off a server. I'm pretty sure it's getting close to that. That's why they're trying to pimp to you Project X Cloud and the PlayStation Everywhere. I forget the name of it right now. But they're pimping that to you because they know where the future's going, and they see the competition with Stadia right now too, and they're like, hey, if they do this, then we won't be able to pimp it when our console goes away. So they're trying to jump on it and make sure that they get you guys too. But I see that for what it is. That's them saying, hey, look, we're throwing our shot across the bow. Say, hey, here's our platform now. You'll be able to share games, so you can't pull a PS4 on us last minute and try to steal the thunder away. So now the ball's in Sony's court for them to do whatever they're going to do. And in 2020, you guys can line up and go buy a 9th generation platform. While hey, I'll be playing the one I already have, which is Nintendo Switch. But yeah, I'll obviously be getting these, but this is probably the least enthused I've ever been about next generation hardware. This is the least enthused I've been because I know what the outcome is going to be. It's going to be the same. There's going to be issues. There's going to be some launch games, but very few. There'll be a lot of ports, a lot of upgrades, a lot of remastered editions coming, and then the true software for those platforms won't really mature until maybe 4 years in. And unfortunately, that's what happened with these other platforms. That's what's going to happen with these. They're not going to come out the gate with tons of new software like Switch did. It's not going to happen. They already weren't ready. They weren't ready to really announce these anyway. I think they really wanted another year to give these guys a shot, but they can't leave Nintendo on the market by themselves this long. You see what they did in less than 3 years. It's fucking ridiculous. So they gotta jump. They have to. They have no choice. I'm looking at some of these here. Phil Spencer saying this is the strongest, most powerful Xbox ever created. No shit. Yeah, of course. Nobody else is making a fucking Xbox. What else is it supposed to be? It says we're getting a new IP called A Goddamn Superhero, and then Travis shattered that title card. That's hilarious. Yeah, that was Travis is that's sarcastic shit anyway. I definitely want to play No More Heroes now. It's been a while, and I wanna play the new game. And Game Idea guy is saying exactly what I said. They said they can't even do 4K right. They need to stop jumping the gun for resolution and start adding things in with all that processing capability that will give the games better AI and physics. Yes, thank you, Lord. So they should do that now with 1080p. Like, there's no reason. Yes, people are buying shitloads of 4K TVs, right? But they're not watching 4K content. So it's not like they have something to judge against the console, right? So why are you jumping to 4K if there's barely 4K movies out there, and then you try to watch them on streaming services and you're not really getting true 4K? You're getting interleaved, not full packets sent to your hardware. So unless you downloaded an entire movie, have that shit on a hard drive, and you're streaming it across your local network to your TV, you're not getting it full frame. So it's just odd. It's odd that they're jumping to this and there's nothing to compare it to other than them chasing each other. So I don't know what this whole 4K, 8K, we got to do it, better than anything type situation where I'm like, if I really wanted that, like PC, I don't need a console to do that, and then I can actually measure the frames and look in fraps and see what's happening. Like, I can't even really trust you on the TV to do something like that. And then when you're talking about stuff like that on a TV that's 240 hertz, do I really care if it's 60 frames per second or not? Like, that means that my TV still has to double it 2 or 3 times anyway for it to meet the max of what the TV's refresh rate is. So it's a never-ending loop of broken promises. 1080p was supposed to be the standard for 6th generation, and we've gone through this story before. The PlayStation 3 was supposed to have 2 HDMI ports, 2 HDMI outs for 2 simultaneous 1080p displays. It was supposed to give you a 16 by 10 display of 2 1080p displays shown in a 16 by 10 format, ultra wide screen. That's what it was supposed to be able to do for you, and that never happened. Obviously, the hardware changed and things like that, but the same promises were told of the Xbox 360, and I'm like, how are you gonna do that? You don't even have HDMI on the back of your shit. Like, I'm supposed to use component cables and get 1080p from that? No, like the max really is like 1080i on that shit. But that's what they were briefing to people, and those promises were never made, and they were never kept. And then so in the 7th generation, now you've got. I'm sorry, I meant 7th for what I was talking about before. So in the 8th generation with the Xbox One and PlayStation 4 is supposed to be like 1080p and all this other kind of stuff, right? So HDR. So it was supposed to be HD in the 7th generation, and now we're really HD in the 8th generation, and we're going to give you 1080p 60 frames per second. No, not happening in every game. So you come out with upgrades for those, so you can be able to play in 4K and kind of checkerboard 4K, and we're still not getting 1080p 60 frames per second in every game. So what are we doing? Give me a console that gives me 1080p 60 frames per second in every game, no matter what, and you sold me. We can't even get that yet. Of course, Switch isn't doing it either. So, and obviously it's got a 720p screen, so obviously stuff is going to be catered more to 720p more than anything else. Even if, developers wanted to, they're like, you're developing 2 modes for that platform, so you're going to focus on 720p more than you would 1080p. But anyway, it's just weird that that's the focus, and I don't know why folks are harping on this and why they're jumping up and down on it. I'm like, so what games are you going to play and what resolutions are they going to be in all the time? So I'm looking here. It says, hopefully Nintendo next gen system is still a handheld. I don't know. Nintendo does different shit. They're working on different shit all the time. There's no telling. There's no telling, really, at this point. Let's see. What do they say here? Appreciate you guys in the chat. Y'all keep the likes up for me, please, so we can get a couple more people in here. So if they want to ask more questions, I can get to them. Duke Togo 13 says, "Do you think developers and players will forget about Nintendo when the Series X and PlayStation 5 launch? What role do you think Switch will play in the midst of all that buzz?" I got one word for you, or one name for you, and that's Zelda. End of discussion. That's it. Those consoles can launch. They're not gonna launch with a Breath of the Wild 2, and apparently that game's scheduled for around that time. And what a perfect time for it to launch too. Especially if it's that and Metroid. It's done. It's done. You give me 2020 with back-to-back, No More Heroes, Bayonetta 3, probably a new Mario game they're working on right now, Metroid Prime 4, and Breath of the Wild 2. Do you really think people are really caring? You're looking like, hey, ooh, these new systems are coming out. Well, what games you gonna play with them? I don't know what the launch game is gonna be, and the couple of launch games that are here, they're not really what I want to play, because you might get anywhere between 10 to 15 launch games per system, versus the catalog of what's on Switch and the obvious heavy hitters they'll have around that time frame, which are guaranteed. So, I mean, you talking about Breath of the Wild 2 launching the same time a console launches. That console better have a fucking lineup, because it's going to be hurting. It's going to be hurting. Let's see. Middle Mid said it was all about the 8 gigs of RAM. Yep, that was 8 gigs of RAM. They were clowning about the 8 gigs of RAM. Going in on Wii U for only having 2 or some shit, and I'm like, but they games ain't big like that, so it don't matter. But people didn't care. Like, oh, hey, you got 2 gigs of RAM, you can't even do 1080p with just that. And I'm like, just wait. And Smash Bros came out, and that was it, 1080p. Chanel says, will the Xbox Series X have 4K native resolution for all games? Also, what will you predict the file size of the games because of it? I kind of talked about that before you made that comment. Like, the games are going to be, they're going to be above 100 gigs per minimum. And no, they're not going to be 4K 60. We're lucky if any of these games end up being 1080p 60. Because they're designed in a bad way. So unless they change, now like I said before, they could change. Like some of the language that Mark Cerny was talking about was like, hey, lean into the SSD. Like, and if they segment their games. That means they have to change how they program their games and chop them up and segment them so they can pass them through to the SSD, which they could really just do with the existing RAM. But I already talked about this. But if they do that, then their games will be much more modular and easier to load, and you don't have to worry about having these huge bloated ass games that take forever to load. You got to go make a fucking sandwich before you can play your game. Like, all that will go away, and they'll be just like Wii U games. Go figure. Anyway, Xbox Series X, he said, I think team over there, the name's next Xbox thought about the acronym for it. It's going to be called the BS Box. That's hilarious. And yes, the name was PS Now. I don't know why I couldn't remember it. It says switches and do 1080p 60. Yeah, it doesn't need to. I mean, it probably could in a couple of games here or there docked, but like the focus is making sure that the handheld works. So they're going to focus on 720p for that screen. Obviously, you're not developing 1080p 60 for a screen at 720p. Also on a battery. Also 11 watts. So no. You want 1080p 60, that means Switch is now doing 30 or 40 watts docked. And I don't know how well that console will hold up with that kind of power going through it, to be honest with you. So J-Biggs, what up in the chat? Appreciate it. Get the likes up, and we'll keep this going for a little bit. Throw your questions out as you go. But yeah, that's kind of what I kind of want to talk about with regards to this crazy platform here. I do think Sony is just going to be an also-ran. They're going to come out and say, hey, here's a PlayStation 5. It's in a box. It's got the same specs. Go buy it because we're Sony. Also, here's some of the games that we said are going to be on PlayStation 4 and they're now on PlayStation 5. So, like, Ghost of Tsushima, that's going to be a PlayStation 5 game. I mean, it will launch on PlayStation 4. That's a PlayStation 5 game. Let's just not bullshit here. That's what's happening with that game. It's going to launch on PlayStation 5 at some point. But yeah, that was it for that little comment there. So I'm trying to figure out what was next on my list here. I was supposed to be talking about networking, but I don't know if I want to get into that right now. So I one of the biggest misconceptions with regard to technology in general, and I don't know why this is, but gamers they tend to think that they're technology experts because they're using technology to play games, but they don't understand all aspects of how all that stuff works. They just know certain things are commonplace and certain things you expect, and therefore that's the right answer, right? So I've been proving this over the last 2 or 3 years now, since this new protocol has been standard. But I have proven veritably through a lot of packet captures and stuff that I can show you guys over and over again. 802.11 AC pretty much matches and exceeds 10100 Ethernet. Now gigabit Ethernet obviously is going to be a little bit more efficient because it doesn't have as much attenuation as wireless does. But if you're talking about being capped at 500 megabits per second or 700 megabits per second on a wireless is going to be better, especially with regards to gaming, because each one of your packets in gaming, they're not going to be UDP, they're going to be TCP, which means they're going to be confirmed and controlled every single time. Appreciate the donation, thank you. Flip 99, do you have a question, Flip 99? I can answer it on here, but I appreciate the donation. So I noticed that jitter, lag, and confirmed packets, the ACK and SYN packets, they do not have the same issues with regards to waiting for confirmation, waiting for ACK. Every time that you send a packet to and from, you know, how can I say this? So when I send a packet to, when I'm monitoring my console, say I'm watching Switch, right, and I'm playing Splatoon or what have you. I'm going online, and I go and I have a request from the CDN.Nintendo CloudFront, what have you, whatever. It will go on and it will see, hey, here's a gameplay packet being sent up or whatever, right? And it's getting confirmed. What would normally happen over wireless at that point, before it even leaves my network, is a bunch of send packets would go out, and they would flood themselves at the router before one of them goes out and gets an ACK. And I don't know if you guys know too much about networking, but basically within every frame, there's a bunch of different packets that are being sent out over your network to determine what type of not only what type of protocol, but what stage of the protocol your network traffic is in. So if you're using TCP and the packet is being confirmed every bit along the way, especially if it's encrypted traffic, your packets are going to go one way. They're going to wait for a confirmation, and then they'll be able to flood information back to the remote server that's receiving it, and then they'll send confirmation packets back to say, hey, I've received all this data that you sent me. Do you want to send again? And then your host yourself will either reply back, yes I do, or yes I don't, or no I don't. Wireless at one point in time, because of attenuation, because it's always beaconing, would always be listening. So whenever it was trying to send anything, it was still receiving the acts from itself. So it would still be saying, hey, I received the packet that bounced off the wall. I received the packet that went this way or went that way. And that will create more attenuation from the signal that you're trying to receive through the airways. And this is in a perfect scenario. This is, hey, there's no walls for it to go through. There's no whatever. That would have been an issue back in the day for 802.11a, b, g, n, or what have you, right? AC now with the 5 gigahertz band, even though it uses the same band as A, the frequency is much wider, and you can fit more data down one channel. You're talking up to 6 bands, or 6 antennas could work at one time. And depending on how good your router is at delegating traffic, you can have a separate channel coming in, or a separate VLAN coming in to send all your packets out. So say you're playing, for lack of a better game, say you're playing Warcraft, right? There was a time where if you were playing wireless, since this game exists on a server, all your data is being cached by the server. The game is actually being run on the server, right? So your client is constantly talking to that server for you to be able to play the game. And because of the attenuation from the wireless, the server actually had to have some type of logic in there to note that your I guess your lag, if you will, because of how much lag you are having, it has to delegate how to send and appropriate your packets to send them back to you. So it would not send back as many packets to confirm if your data stream was being slow. It would just update your game state over and over again to say, hey, look, so you don't get any lag and you're able to actually play the game. Well, now with the way that, you know, bigger band wireless routers are coming out now, obviously fiber internet being more available now, so you have a bigger bandwidth overall. The limit now is the game server that you're connecting to, and typically, even if you have gigabit Ethernet on your PlayStation or Xbox or what have you, or 10100 Ethernet if you use the Ethernet adapter for Wii U or Switch, those consoles are handicapped by the server you're connecting to anyway. Like Xbox Live, sometimes if you connect to it, you're not getting more than 100 megabits down anyway, depending on what you're trying to pull or what you're connecting to. And for Nintendo Switch, it is locked at 50 megabits per second bi-directional. So depending on how the traffic is for that day on that CDN, your local CDN, you're not getting more than 25 megabits per second one way. So it doesn't really matter as far as bandwidth goes. What type of connection you really have, whether it's wired or wireless. Now, with regards to the actual packets being dropped or what have you, that has gone down because the attenuation on the actual routers over time as they've been developed has gone down. The technology has advanced, people. It's not as old and bad as it used to be now. Now, those old Ethernet cables you had laying around or whatever, they'll give you more lag than a new wireless router will. And that's just the way technology works now. So the twisted pair you had, when you wire all eight pins together inside your Ethernet cable, they were twisted in a fashion to stop from attenuation, so you don't end up with interference inside of that same cable. Well, guess what happens if you have a twisted pair next to another twisted pair and both of them have active connections? The same attenuation you would get if you had a wireless connection. The exact same, because you have two cables with the exact same frequency twisted over each other to stop each other from interfering, but they're next to something with the same polarity, so they're going to bump heads. So I don't know if anybody has seen this habit before, but if you've seen some people, they have the old habit now. They had the old habit before, where if you are setting up Ethernet runs for a house or business or anything else like that, you'll see people setting up. They will plug in their Cat5 cables on each end of the switch going inwards. Never really trying to plug them next to each other. They were plugged on opposite ends first. And that's just an old myth. I don't know how much that really works. In modern day switches now, they're basically routing switches, and they know how to reverse polarity. So you can use a straight through cable or a crossover cable on any of these modern switches now. But some of those old myths still come to play. Some people still do those same old tricks or what have you that they used to do with hubs and things of that nature, because networks used to be so chatty. So, of course, I get in arguments with people all the time on the internet that don't believe this shit because they're just told all the time that, hey, don't use wireless because it's bad, blah, blah, blah. Well, I ran across a couple of stories. I don't know if I should show it right now, but I ran across a couple of studies where people were talking, they were actually testing some online games, and they were trying to verify whether or not wireless made them worse at playing games. And their results on both sites were no. You got basically the same results as long as you were using a more modern router or wireless interface, right? Obviously, if you went back to go play, hey, I want to play wireless in and hop on and see if I can play some Minecraft or whatever, you're gonna have some issues. So they went and tested, multiple games they were playing. I think it was Overwatch. They were testing or what have you on wired and wireless, and they couldn't really discern whether or not there was any interference going back and forth between wireless and gigabit Ethernet at this point. So we're comparing to the obvious better technology, and it's still kind of negligible at that point. So if you got those old 10100 cables laying around, there's no comparison at this point. Like, newer wireless is it. So I just kind of want to discuss that a little bit. I don't know if anybody else had really come across that. I know a lot of people kind of they are definitely afraid of using anything other than Ethernet to play games on, but you're not really going to have any issues. I don't get any lag or anything like that when I play Smash. I've been playing wireless since Brawl. I've never used an Ethernet adapter other than to test. And when I test, I get the same ping results. So because everything is really waiting on Nintendo, and I really don't get any more lag than I would normally get, other than the session being peer-to-peer. And I test normally to start a connection, to start a lobby first, to see if it's me, to see if I'm lagging out. And then once we're playing, I'll look to see, hey, peer to peer, what is happening here. And usually, what happens is if you get a bad session, it's because the other user either had issues with bandwidth on their end, or they were lagging out on their end due to improper configuration and things of that nature. I've never really had issues. I've had multiple people say, hey, I'm lagging out, blah, 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 blah. And I'm looking on their end and I'm like, dude, your network connection is really shit. And it ends up being them instead of me. But it is what it is. I've never really, I was actively able to play Ultra Street Fighter 2 using my phone as a wireless hotspot. So it is obviously bandwidth isn't an issue, and even using LTE converted into a wireless AC signal, none of that conversion seems to be an issue and seems to cause an issue. Obviously, it's not as ideal as having your own wireless setup at home, but in a pinch, you can still get a game going. So, yeah, I just wanted to kill that myth real quick. But obviously, you don't have to believe me. Test on your own. But I would say if you enable Wireshark and you watch the packets between. Yeah, and you can set your router into different modes. If you switch to all 2.4 gigahertz, just watch the drastic difference between the amount of lag and the lack of acknowledgement requests you get from your router going out once it hits the destination versus using AC. It's like a 90-day difference. It's like your router is pretending that it's plugged in as gigabit Ethernet when it's sending the packets out. So obviously that means if your router is a gateway router, there's extra configuration you need to do on that end as well. For most people, I would say most people, because most people that are technical that are listening to this shit, they probably have their modem separate and they have their own wireless router connected to that, and then they VLAN everything else off appropriately. Hopefully you do, and it's probably my fault. I still haven't done the fucking networking video. It's gonna take a real long time, dude. I've got video, and every time I put stuff together, like new stuff comes out. There's new stuff that I need to do, like what I'm talking about now about AC, and that completely changes the game. And I don't want to put out subpar information, so it's really difficult for me. I have another video right now. You guys have probably seen the screenshot for it a couple of times. It's called Games Don't Run, and I can't really release that one now either because things are changing with regards to these new systems coming out and how game code is being run on, how it was run on Wii U, how ELFs are changed going from PS2 to PS3 to PS4. So I don't know. It's just it's just one of those things. But if you guys have any other questions, I could look at those real quick before I may have to change this a little bit. Let's see. The only thing you can be interested in the next PlayStation, another Ape Escape. Again, Sony shit. Like, what are they doing? If they get back to their original shit, man, they'd be stiff competition for Nintendo. They'd be really stiff competition for them. Right now, like, to be honest with you, the only first party content that I think matches Nintendo, they're not first party anymore, and that's Sega. Like, they had all the hits. So, I mean, those are the only people that I think that could, if they wanted to build another platform right now, they would give Nintendo a hard time. Am I looking forward to playing Ori and Will of the Wisp on Game Pass? I don't have Game Pass yet. I probably need to because it's super fucking cheap. And I do want to play Ori and Will of the Wisp. I did love the original Ori. Was playing that like crazy on Xbox One. But yeah, I do want to play that. I don't know about Game Pass though. I'm a big fan. Even though this is an indie game, I'm a big fan of physical games. Even though they really don't mean nothing on that platform anymore. I still want a box, and I know Ori doesn't. It originally didn't come with a box. It was a downloadable game, but other games that are going to be on Game Pass, like Gears and stuff like that, all their first party stuff is going to be on Game Pass. I don't want to download that shit. I want box. I need box. I need that so I can I don't know. I guess serve my physical peen instead of my e-peen as far as me having a collection and whatnot. So go figure there. And I guess I'll be a hypocrite in that way, shape, or form. So sue me. But nah, that's about it. That's about all I got. Unless you guys have any more questions. I know Christmas is coming up, and we got a couple other got a New Year coming up, and I'll probably be trying to talk about Game of the Year at some point, but that will require me to finish Astral Chain and some of these other games that I'm going through right now. So, man, I still got shit from 2018 to play. So, don't be surprised if you see a Game of 2018 video coming from me. And yeah, don't be mad at me for doing that shit. But hey, man, I am a father of two. I don't have time to play these games as soon as they come out like you guys do. Y'all be blowing $60 and then the game be $20 in like a week. But I can't be getting down like how y'all get down. So but I do appreciate y'all coming through. I'll try and do another one of these soon. I was trying to get a couple other regulars on here on Discord. But other people had other plans. Obviously, this is probably a bad night to do it too. This is kind of like date night for everybody. But this is the only free night I have right now until probably this time next week. So we just have to balance accordingly. And you can find me. You'll see me on the on OJ's Player Essence podcast. I'll try to be on there as frequently as possible. Who knows? I might even be on Terminator Juice podcast at some point. I guess maybe, depending. And I'll try to do podcasts with the original Gamers at Large guys. We got a Game Idea guy in the chat right now, and Jay Fleming. So we try to do stuff here and there. I even do a wrestling podcast here and there. So you guys just if you keep up with some of the other people I run with, and you'll see me on podcasts here and there. Andre saying he would have joined if he wasn't working. Yeah, I get it. Metal Mint, we gonna fight, man. You say you got Astral Chain, Damon X Machina still in the plastic, man. That's blasphemy, man. You gotta play one of them. Like I still haven't even bought Damon X Machina yet, but I knew I wasn't gonna buy it. There was no point in me buying it if I knew I was gonna spend as much time with Astral Chain as I ended up doing. So, like, I don't have that game for 2 months, but obviously I haven't played 2 months worth because I'm actually a busy person. But I just now, getting around to, mastering that game fully. So I'm ready for Damon X Machina now. So that, and I gotta get some Pokemon in too, because I gotta talk shit about with everybody on Player Essence podcast. Specifically, I gotta get with Baron and shit talk him about these N64 trees. And play that a little bit, but Pokemon is gonna be my shit. I'll be able to play that and have fun, man. It's crazy. My wife was like, "You playing that game? That's, oh my god, that's like a baby game." I said, "You don't even know, man. This is RPG of life. Like you don't even know what type of game this is right now." But it is what it is. But yeah, I'm gonna call this one, man. Do you play games to have fun to impress other people, guys? That's what I always say. That's the moral and story of the podcast. And I'm gonna go ahead and call this one out unless you guys got any more questions. But that's it. We'll talk tech next time, and we'll see if this PlayStation 5 shit becomes what it becomes, and I'll do a podcast on that one too, and we'll talk about it. But until then, we'll holler at y'all. Peace. Later, guys. Appreciate y'all coming out. We're gonna end it right now.